Welcome to AlphaCars Service Center. We've got another G-Class in today for some rust concerns. This is a 2017 G63, and let's take a close look at it. So we've just done our initial evaluation, and let's go over the findings. This vehicle actually has a paint protection film on the full front end, so the front end of the vehicle has been preserved really nicely, and it does look really good. But we did find one spot. You can see right here, there's a little orange speck, and that's a little bit of rust starting to bubble underneath the paint protection film. You can see the line of the film there, and we can correct that little area without being too intrusive to the film, but it is just something to note that we did find. The windshield frame, which is a very common area of concern on the G-Classes, this one looks great. There's a couple minor little rock chips here and there that are just starting a little bit of corrosion. Like there's one on this corner right here, but we can correct them very easily at this stage, and we are going to be recommending paint protection film be applied to the windshield frame and to the these rear edges of the doors as well. This is another area that's a very common place to pick up rock chips and have penetrating rust on the G-Classes, but all four doors on this vehicle are clean, so we do want to keep them that way by applying the film. Let's go to this right rocker panel now. We've got some pretty severe bubbling rust there underneath the paint, and these moldings do need to be replaced as well because they start to warp when they rust internally, and the only way to fix them is just to replace them with a new one. And what can happen too is we can see all the orange there on the inside of this molding. When the vehicle gets rained on or washed, and then the rusty water runs out from under these, that will also cause the rust to start behind them on this rocker panel. So, like I said, it's kind of interesting. Most of the G-Classes have this happen where this rusts internally and it starts to warp under its own accord. It doesn't get like that from removing it. It'll actually be installed on the vehicle still from the factory, and you'll see the edges start to lift off the vehicle. Now let's take a look in this passenger rear door. There is some rust starting around the door hinge mounting bracket here, above it and below it. We've had G-Classes here where we actually remove all four doors to be able to address that if it's bad enough. Now this vehicle we should be able to do with them installed, but you never know what might happen as we start to open things up. Plans might change. This door, we can see here, it's a little bit of a tricky angle. There is a bit more rust on this one. This door, because of the lift, we can't open it as far. That one has a bit more rust on there. Now looking at the rocker panel, we've got a big area there. And in this video, you're gonna kind of follow along in a few of the stages as we open these areas up, treat the metal and start to refinish them and prevent it from happening again. And this is just the initial stage of evaluation. And you can see there that bubbling rust in the seam of the door. And of course, all this rust, if left untreated, everything will just get worse and worse, and then really fully compromise the metal and not be repairable eventually. So this left quarter panel, we can see this has been here for a while. We've got the stained rust drips down there. The openings for the cargo door hinges have the rust in them as well. And this, we're just starting with an initial sort of invasive evaluation because we really need to open all this up and see if the metal is still workable behind there. The top of the cargo door has this bubbling rust as well. And this is actually what happens when you don't catch the rust in time that's in the seams of the doors. It starts working its way out behind the paint on the outside of the door, and then you notice it on the outside of the vehicle. This right quarter panel has the bubbling rust coming out of the vertical seam right there. And back to the cargo door, it has rust behind the handle. This rust starts in here behind the sealing gasket, you can see there, and is actually some just starting to work its way out of the bottom. So we do remove the handle to get full access and really be able to treat it from where it's starting out. Now let me show you above on the cargo door here. Sorry about the camera, been having some issues with this. There we go. Check this out behind the seal. The metal's starting to delaminate a little bit. Pretty serious rust there along the whole top, the other corner. It's along the bottom as well. And we can see the roof crown molding, or the kind of roof drip rail here. All sorts of paint chipped off of there, corrosion, really all of the above for the roof drip rail. We can see another part here. So this full roof drip rail will actually get refinished. The underbody of this vehicle actually looks really good. The common areas of concern, like the rear suspension mounting points where the shock mounts to the these tubes that are welded to the frame rails, you can see there just some very light surface rust. We're gonna clean all that up, as well as any other existing rust, light rust on the underbody. We're gonna clean that up and prepare it for a fluid film application. Overall, this vehicle is very, very clean on the underneath, but just a few things to note. And another classic sort of G-Class issue we do on most G-Classes that come in to our shop, these exhaust flanges like to corrode and then separate, leaving you with an exhaust leak, leaving you with a pipe that can actually drop and be sort of dragging. So before that happens, we cut these, cut the ruined hardware out, clean up the flanges, new hardware, and new sealing gasket, torque it all down, and then fix this issue before it gets worse. Mercedes did a great job with the material of the actual exhaust, but the sealing gasket, the hardware, seems to be mild steel or something related to that, because it then tends to deteriorate pretty fast in some kind of average conditions. And I believe the last thing to show you is just the back edge, sort of this back edge right towards the center. You can see there's a few chips, a little bit of corrosion starting, but we will be able to correct that because it is in the early stage. So I want to thank you for watching this first segment. Now just follow along in the video. You'll see some segments of us opening up some of this rust, seeing what the metal looks like under it, and then starting the refinishing process, bringing this G-Class back to its former glory. And now we're on to the next segment of work on the G63 here. It's got some awesome Michelin tires on it now. We've done a lot of mechanical work to it that's all been completed, including the timing cover reseal, the upper timing cover reseal, along with a lot of other just general maintenance items. But now moving back to the rust concerns. Check this out. The vehicle looks a lot different than it did when we first saw it. So it does have the new rear springs now, and in the areas where the spring seats, we did spray fluid film. The rear bumper is off. It's being held with zip ties right now, but we will fully remove that shortly. All the electrical connections are disconnected. We can see here we've opened up the rust, and we actually just finished our game plan with this vehicle. You can see here opened up the rust. You can see the clear coat is stained there from the rust, and actually was working pretty deep into the metal there. And we did find a bunch of rust on all the edges of the rear arches. You can see all the bubbling rust there. So pretty much where we're at now, we are about to request some additional time for the customer, because as of now, we've just done kind of our invasive evaluation so we can come up with a plan. We're gonna remove all of the wheel arch flares, or the fender flares. We're gonna remove all 4 of those, and we're gonna fix the rust issues on the inside of these panels. So this rust, I may have mentioned it before, this doesn't start on the outside of the G-Classes. This starts on the inside where we can't see, which is up sort of in there. And it's a very tight area where this rear panel is bonded to the quarter panel here, this seam. And we've actually made a special tool that we've used for years where we can get up in there and scrape away the factory epoxy-based seam sealer and kind of sealant they have up there, and then take care of getting the rust out of there that's beneath that caused this. So then we can use a chemical treatment, stop the rust, well, mechanically remove the rust, then use the chemical treatment, and then reapply the epoxy factory-style structural epoxy seam sealer. And then we can have our body shop refinish the outside of this. So that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna take care of the inside of this panel and this panel, because this starts on the inside as well. So we're gonna take care of the inside, prep all that, remove the rust, stop it from happening again. And then we're gonna send the vehicle to the body shop without the rear bumper, because that's okay, that's all composite, and without the fender flares. So then they have full access to all of these rusty areas. And we're gonna have them refinish most of the back of the G-Class, but we will use some factory sort of seams and body lines, because anywhere where we can leave the original paint, we want to. So it'll be some select areas where it's refinished. And the cargo door, they're gonna remove that as well because of the extensive rust it has all throughout. Even once we got the rear bumper off, we could see more easily all the rust in here, and you can see it's actually pretty soft right there. So they're gonna have the door off either way to take care of refinishing all this and being able to spray all these areas correctly and prep it. So at the same time, they'll refinish the cargo door and even take care of the areas like right here. This is pretty deep in the metal, and they'll have the taillights removed. So if anything's starting under there, which we don't even know about at this time, they can take care of that while they're there. So that's our plan for the back of this G-Class. Now let's check out the rocker panels. We're about to request extra time from the customer to remove the running boards, because first we started with our invasive evaluation on the rocker panels, and we found, especially on this one, that the rust continues. It extends down in this seam. It extends actually all the way to the pinch weld, and there's no way to get access or a tool in there to remedy that. So now we're at the point where we're gonna request the time to remove both running boards. We don't like to just request this in the beginning, because if we find that the rust isn't in that seam, then there's no reason to charge the customer that when we didn't have to remove them. So that's why we try to do things in stages, and as we find things, then we'll weigh if it really does need the additional cost. So that's where we're at with these. And as I said too, the fender flares are all coming off. We're gonna take off the inner splash shields in the front, because we wanna inspect the inner arch of the fenders, make sure there's no rust starting there. And here's a place to pay special attention to if you have a G-Class, is beneath the seals for the fender flares. So this vehicle actually has paint protection film on the front end already. You can see the film is cut around like the V8 there, and even right here you can see the film. You can see the line right here. It stops right there where my finger is, and it stops just above that damage line. So this line you see, that's kind of like the silver color, that's raw metal. This seal wore right through the factory paint down to the raw metal, and unfortunately the PPF installers didn't know that that's a very common issue on the G-Class. And the film, unfortunately the film literally stops like a millimeter from the damage line. If they had pulled the seal up and installed the film just a bit wider, just cut it a bit wider, this would have prevented this issue. And that's how we do it here at AlphaCars. If we do a PPF installation on the G-Class, we make sure it goes all the way in the seam, and then the rubber seal is only making contact with the PPF and not the factory paint. So what happens is the fender flare vibrates and it flexes a little bit as you're going down the road, which in turn is pressing on this rubber seal, and it has this hard edge, and what that edge does is wear away the paint every time it moves. And it even wears it away. You can see right there. It wore away right through the factory chip guard, and this rubberized chip guard is designed to be more tough and really prevent stuff like this. So it even went right through that. That's how much of an issue this is. So that's why we want to remove this whole thing, because this can happen all the way around. So we want to catch it now before those areas start to rust with a raw metal. We can touch them up. And then other than that though, the PPF installation on this vehicle, it is a good installation. The edges look good, the cuts look good. You can see it's very neat. So we don't want to take this off and start over and charge the customer more. What we're going to recommend is touching up these areas with the damage, and then just applying the little strips of film where it's missing it, and we can butt it up right against their film that was already there. And in my opinion, that's really going to be the most cost efficient and the smartest option for the protection and the cost efficiency of doing that. So that's where we're at on the G-Class now. Either way, our underbody, cleaning and rust proofing, that will be done at the very last, because we want all the body work to be done first. We don't want fluid film or anything, maybe oversprayed into areas where they need to work. So that will be sort of the last thing you'll probably see in this video. But even if I open the door right here, we have the interior panel off. And if we look right inside this panel, I actually just grabbed a light. Look at that. You can see the rust in there. I'm trying to get a good angle for you. The vehicle's a little high in the lift to get a sort of a better view. But you can see all that rust in there, and that's only one spot. There's other areas that are hard to see behind some of the inner structure. And that area starts to rust on the inside, like right inside the quarter panel. This side's actually clean, which is good. We did verify that. But that starts to rust on the inside, and it works its way out, and it causes all of this. So that's why we want to be sure to remove all that rust, chemically treat it, stop it from happening again, and then the body shop can do their thing. Because that's what happens with these G classes, unfortunately, is people aren't aware of this, and we might have the rust on the outside here, we might have the rust on the outside here. People spend a lot of money, they go to the body shop, they make it look awesome, but then what happens 6 months later, or a year later, or even sooner, is the rust is still behind the seam, and they just, the body shop does their thing, and then they may not know it's behind there either, but that rust starts to work its way back out, and we've seen G classes with the fresher paint, that's only a couple years old, and it already has this issue because this inside rust issue, wasn't solved before the new coat of paint was put on. So that's why it's so important to really know about that and be able to stop the rust and remove it on the inside before you spend the money on having the exterior refinished and looking good again. And that's the knowledge, you're getting when you come to AlphaCars. We are just very meticulous and very familiar with the G-Class vehicles. We really specialize in these vehicles. We have for many years. And that's why we know all of these, little areas that might get the damage from the seal or where the rust originates in some of these areas. And we can read some of these vehicles like a book when they come in and kind of know exactly why something happened. And that's why we're making the videos here to share with you, whether you're just interested in this information, you find it interesting, or maybe you're watching this because you want to send your G-Class to us and you're kind of looking at how we might operate here. Well, I'm glad you're watching. Thanks for watching. And I will keep you updated. You'll watch some more segments on this as we make progress. And then at the very end, of course, we'll see the finished product. We've continued grinding back down to the bare metal surface on the rocker panels. This is looking awesome. The metal is in a really nice shape once we got it ground down there. And now what the technician is gonna do, he's gonna apply the chemical rust converting primer, so it'll seal that surface away. We've done some additional grinding here. We can see we've gone into the gap of the panel as we need to fully get the rust out of there. That's still in progress. And we've done a little more on this quarter panel as well. And check this out. This rocker panel is looking awesome on the driver's side, but this once again will get the rust converting chemical treatment, and we even used the epoxy seam sealer in some of the seam after we opened it up to get the rust out of there. And now we have all of the fender flares removed on the G-Class, and man, are we glad we removed all of them. Check out all of this rust starting in all of these different areas, and this has not even been opened up. Let me get my light here. You can see all the bubbling rust. That the only way to find this would be taking off these fender flares. The running boards will be removed as well. You can see there's actually a rock stuck in there. And this side, I believe, looks okay, but the other side, there's actually a little bit of rust starting in this corner where the only way we're gonna access that is removing the running boards. So first, I'm just gonna go around and show every wheel well here. Of course, the back, you can see how ugly that is. All the rust here, look at that right there. And there is various points of rust starting on some of these factory spot welds on the inside. And of course, these rear stabilizing brackets will be removed as well and refinished. The technician's currently working on opening up the rust on this side. And check out all the rust that was hiding behind this fender flare here. So the paint protection film, you can see it stops right there. And of course, the issue of the rubber seal wearing through the paint, that's what all these lines are, you see. And now I'm gonna start talking about our repair plan. First, let's just go to this rear one right here, just so we can get a good look at the condition underneath. And same thing, all of the little areas there that need to be fixed. And here's this bracket there. So our repair plan on this, we are going to repair all of the inner structures. So we're gonna remove all of this rust starting. On any inner structure, we'll remove these brackets here, refinish those here. And we're going to do all that prep so then we can send the vehicle to the body shop. And then the body shop, in addition to refinishing the back of the vehicle and the back wheel arches, we're gonna have them do the front wheel arches as well. It'll come out perfect. Them doing that, it'll all be blended properly. They'll probably end up just kind of repainting this kind of section here. And so some of this protection film will have to be removed, unfortunately. Even if we were to do the spot repairs here, we'd still have to remove some of this section of film. But then after the fact, we can apply film here at AlphaCars, and we can apply it without these fenders even on. So, we can apply it all the way down and even get it on this edge. So it'll really prevent this from ever happening again. Because usually this ends up happening because of the fenders where they mount. These little clips slowly vibrate over time, and it hurts the paint surface and then allows the rust to start. And it kind of just goes from there. And even on this side, we can see this bracket here for this engine component here. That looks like a drain tube for one of the intakes, something like that. And this bracket, as this rusts more and more, it will transfer that rust to the fender. So we want to make sure to clean things like that and keep that from happening. So as I said, we're so glad we removed all of the fender flares, and now he's opening the rust, and we'll remove the side steps next. Now we have the running boards off, and we're so glad we took these off because we found some additional things in the pinch weld area. This side, which is the passenger side, overall we didn't find much, but of course, as we suspected and as we could see, the rust from this area is traveling in this seam. So now we've ground all this back, and we're in the middle of the invasive process. So the technician still needs to grind in that seam more to get any corrosion out of there. And the side steps took a bit of extra time to get off because some of the bolts were a little stuck, but we still got it done. Just had to do it the slightly longer way. And check this out on the driver's side. Let me get my light out. Of course, we've barely opened this up. We haven't really ground these back much, just kind of scraped them for now. So we've got two areas right here, right on the pinch weld. And let me walk around our lift here. And this was a big area. It still is. You can see we've actually done some mechanical grinding here. Let me get the camera to focus. And this rust is pretty deep. We're still in the process of grinding, but we're gonna have to go considerably deeper there and then treat the metal. Structurally, of course, it's still perfectly fine. It's just something that we were surprised to see because there's no way to find that until we had this off and we saw the slight little imperfection of bubbling behind this, and then we opened it up and most of this was hidden. So we're super glad that we took off the running boards there. And the final thing I'll show in this update, we did start to do this quarter panel inside area, cleaning the rust. So we cleaned all the rust out of that area, mechanically removed it, and then now did the chemical treatment on there. And we're still gonna do the same in this seam up here. You can see just to the left of that seam, there's some little bit of opened corrosion right there, so that will get that treatment as well. And we're gonna continue this trend of preparing all of the inside areas, killing the rust, cleaning it, protecting it, sealing it away, before we then send the vehicle to the body shop for all of the exterior cosmetic refinishing. And we have a new finding in the G-Class here. We've got the driver's door open, and we actually found quite a lot of rust underneath some of the trims under here. So when we pulled up the gasket for the door, there's actually some wiring that runs through this channel that powers the kick panel here that lights up with the AMG logo. And we saw a little bit of rust, kind of orange residue on the wiring. And then we found, you know, the rust in here. We've mechanically removed a little bit of it, but it's actually all underneath. Sorry about the light there. It's actually all underneath the seam sealer there. And here's a piece of that seam sealer, and you can see on the underside the rust that's on there. So really, we're gonna need some extra time now we're gonna pull up all of this seam sealer because we think there's rust underneath pretty much this whole bead of seam sealer. You can see it's even up there. So we wanna strip all that back, expose all of it, and be able to remove it, treat it, and prevent that from happening again. Progress is going awesome on the G-Class. Let's check out some of the things we have completed. We can see we have opened up and just cleaned the rust here just to see sort of how deep it is and what we're dealing with. But check this out. Remember in here there was all this rust starting all in these little seams. It's all been cleaned, chemically treated. The bracket here, that has been redone, as well as the inside of the fender. And of course on some of the edges you'll see it looks a little unfinished, but that's because it can be like that because the body shop is gonna do this edge and roll around it. But you can just see how nice that all looks in there. Also the side step brackets, they have been cleaned, and we'll see on the other side, that side's flipped upside down so we can see the underside of the brackets, but they were cleaned, chemically treated, and then have the protective thick rubberized chip guard applied. And check out the inside of the rear arches now. It's all body color, looking awesome. And I believe, yes, we did really the inside of the whole edge of this. So behind all of this panel, it did get done, and things are looking just generally a bit cleaner with all the mechanical rust removal we've been doing. And now the driver's side, once again, the technician did such an awesome job in all of the seams of the sheet metal here. And then on this side step running board, you can see it's flipped upside down, but the brackets there have been cleaned and treated, and then had the protective chip guard applied. And this chip guard is the same sort of a rubberized, texturized material as what's used here on the rocker panel. So it does an awesome job holding up against things like rock chips and damage. So then it'll take a lot longer for any damage to happen, which then causes rust, of course. And you can see that red, that's a good thing you're seeing the red, because that means it was a thorough application of the chemical treatment below. So the technician will do another coat or two on these, and we will do that until we don't see any more of that sort of bleed through from the treatment, so we know it's been applied properly. And now here is the last seam. This one had a decent amount of rust in this area right there, and it looks really, really nice. Once again, everything has been cleaned. This area, of course, now look at this little bit of unfortunate metal Swiss cheese, but that will all be fixed at the body shop, of course. And now looking at this bracket, it's been refinished in the inside of the panel. It's all just looking great. Now we're starting to address some of the rust that is in the door jambs. Specifically, this is the left rear door, the driver's rear door. And we saw some bubbling rust starting kind of in this lower area, and come to find out, a lot of it was hidden under the seam sealer, and a lot of it was hidden underneath the door hinge. So we've removed just the bottom door hinge so we can have access, and look at what we just uncovered. underneath there. So we're gonna continue cleaning, get this cleaned up, continue to remove some of the seam sealer, because as you can see on this lower portion, that still does travel down farther. And we can see evidence actually of previous repairs at some point. You can see so if you look, I'm gonna try to do my best to point here. If you look right here at that rolled edge of the seam, there should still be seam sealer there, and there is none. We didn't remove any, it just didn't have any. And you can see the difference in color, how it goes the body color to kind of just a flat primer color that's missing that gray. That's because of some sort of previous work that was done in the past to maybe, cure or attempt to cure some sort of rust that may have been there a while ago. So definitely an interesting finding, but we're gonna keep moving forward on removing the rust. And now we've found the same thing on the passenger side rear door. This one barely had a little bit of bubbling showing, and then we found all of this once again behind the hinge. So we just opened that up, and on this side, we've already cleaned the rust. This red sort of primer you see is a chemical rust converter. And then if we open up this door here, it's a little tricky with the door situation. This only had a little spot and it didn't go under the hinge, which is good. And now an update on the driver's floorboard area. This has had the chemical rust converter applied there, and then the epoxy seam sealer has been applied over it because of course we had to remove all the factory seam sealer there. So now this will all get painted factory color, and it'll really be hard to tell that a whole lot of work was done, but we're glad we caught this now and are able to remedy the situation. We've got the door hinges all refinished. These had some little areas of chipping paint and some rust starting. We've got the driver's area mostly reassembled, but I did leave the little metal trim off here because we can see right in this gap the factory color paint on that fresh seam sealer. It all looks awesome in there, no more rust. And same thing with here in the door jamb. And now lastly, we'll take a look at the passenger side here. Door hinge is looking awesome. Of course, once the whole vehicle is clean and the tape's removed, it'll look even better. And now we have this hinge area here. And of course, when we take the tape off, we will do a clean of all the sort of dust in the area and any just slight little touch-ups we might need to do. And this door, I don't believe we did any work on. Actually, this door was good, but of course, on the outside, we did do the hinges here. Big update on the G63. We've got our plans together for the body shop visit and the additional work that we're gonna do to prep it for that. So for the body shop visit, first we're gonna cover the back of the vehicle. So we have these sort of tape markers here. So from these tape lines down, the body shop will refinish this panel, this lower quarter panel here, and this sliver down here, stopping at about where we did the rocker panel repair, which looks awesome, by the way. We can see it's the factory color and this thick chip guard to protect it. So, and then the sort of paint line will follow this and go up because of course we have this major penetrating damage here. So this whole rear panel down will get refinished, and then it'll make the corner here. This will all get refinished. The whole cargo door will be overhauled, get refinished. It'll be removed. It'll have all the concerns taken care of there, including, of course, the rust behind the door handle. Really, everything will be disassembled and done properly. And then same thing, this rear panel all the way down will get painted following the same natural body line for the painting. And then it'll travel down this sliver once again and kind of stop where our work stops right there. And you can actually see this line is worn into the paint from the rubber trim that's in the fender flare. And give this long enough time and it'll go right through the paint, through the primer, right down to the metal. And all of this damage here is from the mounting, these little plastic mounting clips, and over time they vibrate and then wear through the paint, and then this is what happens. So the body shop is gonna take care of all this. We are gonna prep this further for the body shop, so we are gonna do some sandblasting in this area, because the sandblasting does an awesome job of really removing the rust in the deep porous areas, but it doesn't thin the metal as much as grinding does. So we grind down to a point and then do the sandblasting, and it really does prep the metal very well, remove all of that rust in there. So we're gonna do that a bit further in some of these areas, so then the body shop will have a very nice clean surface in these areas that had the previous damage. And we are going to remove the moldings here at AlphaCars. We can heat these up nice and hot, remove them, so then they won't deform, and then we can retape them here to stick them back on. So we will do that here as well. And then now moving to the front of the vehicle, that did cover the back of what's being done. Moving to the front, this is actually the ugliest part right here. We can see the rust did go all the way through and create this hole once we ground that away. This molding down will get painted. We are gonna remove this little plastic trim. So this does have paint protection film on it, and I'm gonna discuss now what we're gonna do about that. So we will peel the film off. Right here, the film does stop. It does not connect on this section, so we can peel all this off. And then right here, the film does connect up to this larger piece, which we want to keep all of this factory paint, and the film is really nice. They did an awesome job applying it, so we do want to keep that. We're going to trim the film right here and then peel this whole bottom section off. We will remove this molding here at AlphaCars as well, and then we'll be able to, once again, grind, clean all this further, do some further preparation. And for this hole, this isn't a structural part of the fender, but we are going to grind and sandblast both sides of this metal and then do the fiberglass repair using both the resin and cloth. So it'll be a nice, strong repair there, and it won't add complication like if we were gonna cut that out and re-weld metal in there. It really doesn't need that. It's more cost effective to do the fiberglass repair, and it is very strong as well. Now moving to this side, once again, we'll remove the film from this section. We'll remove the film from this lower section, cut the film here, so then it's all removed here. And once again, we'll remove this plastic piece right here. We can leave the film on there. Body shop will refinish this section here. Once again, going down to the rocker panel, they'll refinish this section, and then we can see the tape line. So this area will be used for the paint blending to blend the refinishing here into the factory paint here. The G-Class is back from our body shop. We're gonna take a quick look at the areas they painted. Starting at the back here, of course, I'm gonna use my finger to point. They did this whole quarter area. They did the rear panels here and the cargo door. They actually had the whole cargo door removed, did a lot of sandblasting and chemical treatments, as well as on some other areas of the vehicle. But even check this out, in the jambs here of the cargo door, all this hardware, nice and shiny and new. And we've got new hardware here, as well as here, as well as new badging at the back. The paint texture looks great. We remember earlier in the visit here, there was the rust hole through the panel and all of the staining. All that has been fixed. Now looking at this side of the panel, once again, it's all looking great. They had tail lights off, the side marker lights off, and everything was treated underneath and refinished very thoroughly. And the vehicle is very dusty. If you do see any maybe things that look like scuffs or marks, it's just some dust from being at the body shop, having all the work done. We are gonna give it a wash before we get to work here. This section was redone as well, and of course this arch area. And now let's go over to this side. Once again, this has been done according to of course, the plan we had. Even this lower area, repainted all behind there. There will be the plastic panel to go on there, but you can just see how shiny and new it looks, and the texture looks great as well, very consistent with the factory texture. And now that the G-Class has been back from the body shop, of course, we want to protect all of that new paint, and we've done just that. We've finished the paint protection film application. I'm gonna go around the vehicle and kind of show where we applied film and where there was already film applied before we had the vehicle. So most of the front was already wrapped with film, the full hood, these kind of top half of the fenders above this trim molding. A lot of these front areas like the grille and headlight buckets are also wrapped, but the windshield frame was not wrapped. This is a very common area to pick up rock chips. There's actually some existing small rock chips that luckily weren't rusting yet that we touched up, and then we're able to put the film over those. And of course the vehicle still has a few things to put on it, like the wipers, of course the fender flares. The G-Class does look a bit different without those fender flares, but I wanted to leave all that off to get a better look at the film in the application that we did. So this full frame has film on it. It does have some seams with how we designed these pieces. It does have some seams, but you can't even feel them with your finger. They're perfectly against each other. And unless you know that they are there, they're really hard to see. It's just kind of how it has to happen to get film in all of these areas. We slipped the film underneath the windshield seal, the edge of it. So even if you get a rock chip right, in the edge of your windshield seal area, it's still gonna be protected. A lot of the pre-cuts for these areas, they don't include this lower cowl area, which we do, and the pre-cuts, it doesn't cover edge to edge. It leaves like a buffer, and then of course you can easily pick up rock chips in there. So this goes down into this seam, and then the other piece for this lower cowl goes up against that in the seam there, and this kind of wraps into here. And like I said, the hood's already fully wrapped on this vehicle, so this whole area is completely protected now. That's why we removed the wipers and the little grommet seals here, because you can see there's a little seam there, and it goes right around where the wipers mount. So anywhere we can get the film to, we really do. This vehicle also has it on the front edge of the roof. So it goes all the way, really almost touching this rubber trim here. So once again, even if you have a rock chip right here in the lower edge, it's still gonna hit the film and not your paint. And this goes exactly back to the front of the sunroof area. So really it's like kind of this 6-inch portion that will pick up all the bad rock chips with the highway use and then start rusting. But we just do one solid piece all the way across, kind of back to this area, and then it travels just here, as we can see. So very hard to see the lines, especially in person. The camera, I'm kind of focusing right on it, and I know the angles of how to show you. This vehicle also has it on these back edges of the door window frames. So once again, it's very hard to see even on camera. You can see the seam just about there. So it kind of goes here and it covers this whole area. Actually, it stops about right up here, and it has a nice kind of swooping round cut to the film. There's no like jagged edges that are easily seen and that are gonna peel up or anything. Of course, it's professionally installed by our team. And this prevents the rock chips from happening on these areas because you have those massive front tires and just the boxy design, and very easily rocks and grit will kick up off the road and hit these areas. And we have a lot of G-Classes come to us for rust repair because of them picking up rock chips, and then it's just left unattended. And we've actually had penetrating rust in these areas before. It gets pretty bad, unfortunately. So this prevents all that from happening. Just this cost of the film and cost of installation will prevent really thousands of dollars in rust damage down the line if these areas were just left unprotected. Now moving to the lower front fenders here. This is a little bit of the film solution we still need to wipe up, as the installation was literally just finished. And there is a trim piece usually here, and I wanted to just leave that off for now, like the other pieces that are missing, because we did the full film. We removed this marker light here. So we've got full film on this whole piece, and it goes right up just about against this front trim molding, and it meets the film. As I said, there was existing film up here before we got the vehicle, and it meets the film right here where my finger is. And now this whole area is protected. And the big thing here is this is even wrapped around these holes, which are the mounting areas for the fender flares. And this is a very common area to rust on your G-Class. I can actually show you, because this section was repainted by the body shop because it actually had penetrating rust damage here. If we remember previously in the video, in the vehicle's progress, there was actually a hole through the metal right there, and now it's like it was never there. But this section right here is factory original, and you can see the little circles there? There's a circle there and a circle there and a circle there and a circle there. That's kind of like an imprint on the factory paint. That's how it starts. The fender flares on your G-Class as you're driving down the road, they kind of flex and rattle as you go over bumps, and the vehicle is just moving and running with its big twin turbo V8 there. And over time, this rubs right through the paint underneath. You never know what's happening, and you only find out once the rust is eaten through this metal and you start seeing it, kind of make its way from beneath the fender flares where you can see it by eye. So anyways, that's my quick explanation of why we are doing paint protection film and custom cutting all of these pieces to now cover the paint in these areas, because now when the fender flares go back on, that will never happen again. In this area, there was already a film right here, and you can see they did a pretty good job. It's closely cut around the badging. I will show you on the other side, we do things a different way here at AlphaCars, or we prefer to. But this was a good installation, but they didn't install it down enough because also the factory rubber seal around the fender flares can also, yet again, rub through the paint for the reasons I said. And this paint protection film was installed like just next to that rubber seal. And you can peel that seal up really easily and get the film under there. I just don't think the installers really knew to do that, or knew it was an issue, or were looking out for that. They were kind of just doing what they could see or what they're used to doing, which is fine. But here at AlphaCars, you get the additional experience and knowledge when you bring your vehicle to us. So what we did, because we wanted to save this pre-existing film, they already cut around this, and it's a good job, and it would just, we didn't feel the need to rip all this off and charge the customer more money for more labor to do all this. It's already there, it already looks good. So we just did a little piece right here, and in certain lights you can see the seam where it meets the existing film. And once again, looks great. Once the fender flare's on there, you'll barely notice this because that's about where the seal is gonna be. And once again, I'm just showing you the exact lighting where you can see. Like now when we come up here, there's no way to notice that, only if you have like a very trained eye or you're looking for it. And now on the other side, I mentioned the V8 badge there. You can see it's gone. We prefer to just remove the badge altogether, throw the film on, and then we put a new badge usually where it's supposed to go. So then the badge is on the paint protection film, and there's no cutting around or seams or anywhere for like the dirt and dust to collect underneath the badge. We just like doing it this way. So this side got the same treatment as I said. It's got the film all here. Once again, this marker was removed, so it's under there as well. And we've got the full piece right here covering all these common areas. Once again, the rub through of the paint on this panel was so bad that we did have to repaint this section, which is why we redid the film. We had to redo the film. And then there was already the pre-existing film up here, like I said, and then also even on this panel, which is awesome as well as on the mirror caps. Before I get to the back section of film, another custom area we did for this customer, for this application, we are using Ceramic Pro's ceramic infused film. So I just wanted to mention that. This stuff really, we have some other videos on it actually. It really makes the paint pop, super glossy, super easy to clean, of course being ceramic infused. It's really amazing stuff. We love using it and see great results. So now back to the G-Class. So this lower section of the quarter panel, so I'm gonna point it out with my finger, this area here, forward of this body seam, over, and then down right here where I'm pointing, this is all actually one piece of film. So we removed this marker once again, and then made the custom cut of film. So it's contoured, you know, in these curves here, because the rear fender flares will go on here when they get installed. And these have the same issues back here. That's why all this was actually repainted at the body shop, because a lot of this was caused by this rubbing through the paint, and then there was a ton of rust, or a good amount of rust under there when we kind of opened things up. So this film, it does wrap around this edge and the seam. I can open the door for us here. The vehicle does have just a few things in it wrapped in the bubble wrap to protect the interior, but the edge of the film is about where my finger is, so it does cover this edge and then just ends up in the door jamb where you don't see it. But I like that it covers this edge, because this is another area where the rocks and grit will fly up on the road and they'll hit this edge of the body panel and once again cause rust on this lower section. So that's all protected now. And the film goes about to like where my finger is here, kind of just these areas. And then the film stops sort of in this body seam right here. And the gas filler flap, this is also wrapped with film as well. Trying to get a good angle. You can kind of see the edge where it's cut. It's really hard to notice. This film is really, really good with those areas of application. It's really hard to notice the edge of it. And of course, just how we design and cut it and apply it also helps too. And then this section got the same treatment there. So we just wanted to protect this lower area. The paint was brand new. Other than a light polish, there's no extra prep work or anything. So really the best time to protect the vehicle surface is when it's new, and now preventing the eventual, you know, rub through of any paint, because we repainted parts of the vehicle. You put the fender flares back on. You don't know when it's going to happen next, but maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 6 years. The rust starts to come back because it rubs right through again due to the factory design. Well, now we've improved this. We have protected it. And now we can even see, we have a good look at the rocker panels. With all the trims and fender flares off, you can really see how the G-Class is made up here and the excellent job we did with the refinishing and rust repair. We also gave those AMG tailpipes or exhaust pipes a polish as well. They have a little bit of the film solution on them. They will actually be much more shiny once we clean them. But that is where the G63 is at right now. It's fully protected. And now we're gonna get into starting to reassemble the vehicle. And this vehicle at the end of this job will get a rust preventative treatment on the underbody, as the customer does use this a good amount in the winter here in New England. And I do just wanna note, you may have noticed the wheels changed. These are just extra wheels and tires we had laying around. They, of course, are for the G-Class from off a different G-Class. And we threw them on the vehicle just for now to be able to move it around and work on it, because the factory wheels are actually at the rim specialist shop, and those are getting fully refinished. As we learned previously, the wheels, or now rims I guess, it's considered a wheel once there's a tire on it. It's a wheel assembly, but I'll just call them rims because that's what they are right now, where there's no tire on them. They just got dropped off back to us from the rim specialist, and they all look brand new. They do such an awesome job. You can see the machined lip there has been restored back to really looking new. We've got all of the little kind of corners and nooks and crannies, I guess you can say. Every little spot has been refinished. And even if I carefully pick this wheel up on the cardboard, the inner surface, hub surface there has all been redone. The inner barrel's all been redone. It's really quite impressive, the work they always deliver. Everything's always perfect. And now it's a real exciting day because we can get these cross climate tires back on and get these back on the G-Class and then get them ceramic coated. Now we've got the G-Class up on the lift and we've got it all prepped for the rust preventative treatment. Let's take a look underneath and go into our office here. I've got my light. Overall, it was in very nice shape under here. We did just lightly clean everything. There's a little bit of existing kind of superficial rust here and there. And that's why we're gonna use the clear fluid film, because you'll be able to see what's going on underneath. And the fluid film product, it does an awesome job at kind of soaking into those existing areas with the light rust, especially some of these back areas like the, well, you can see the bottom of the shock here, but also these rotor backing plates. You can see we tape off exactly just the rotor and caliper, so then we can get the backing plate full of the product, which will really help save those. And we can see at the back now, at the rear axle, it's all very clean. We've got the new springs that were installed when the vehicle had the mechanical work done, so now those will be protected as well. And yeah, like I said, fluid film, great product, lasts a good long time, and it'll really soak in and keep all of these metal underbody components looking great, protected from getting further rust. And now the treatment has been completed. We've started to reassemble the G-Class. We can see the side steps are on now, and the rear bumper is also in the process of being put on. But let's check this out. We've got some nice clean rotors and calipers, and then everything behind is coated with the fluid film rust preventive treatment. You can take a look at how nice these supports here are looking, all the frame tubes, even inside the frame tubes throughout the whole length of the vehicle, or width rather, it has been applied. We still are gonna do the enclosed areas, like inside all of the door skins and the cargo door. Places like that, once the vehicle is lowered down, as kind of a final stage. But all the suspension now, let's go underneath. The frame rails are all coated. Same thing, these cross members here, these tubes, they've been coated inside the full width of them, or length. All of the unibody structure up in here behind all the heat shields has been coated. So now that is all protected. There's a very light coating on the drive shaft, rear axle, everything is looking excellent. The product is clear. When it's a little thick in spots, it has like a little yellow color or yellow hue to it. But we can see it really deepened the appearance of the underbody. It kind of gives like a little glossy appearance to the black surface, but it doesn't hide anything, which is what we're looking for, because then if any areas do get thin over the years, then we can tell. But these areas, it's so good that these areas have been protected. We've had G-Classes come in. We actually have one in the building right now where it came in with this bracket for the shock broken off because these will rust so bad, the spring mount area. So this vehicle is nowhere near that. There was only some very light superficial rust, which we scraped off, opened up, and then we've got the rust preventive treatment in there now. So now this vehicle really, with this treatment on here, it'll never get to that point. It's so worth the investment of having the treatment done. Same thing inside this big rear skid plate, even those areas are done. The rotor backing plates there, just a very thorough job. We even did inside, we can see the rear bumper, it's in the process of being installed, but inside the rear bumper is all done as well. We actually do inside of the bumper separately when it's off the vehicle. And then even the tow hitch here has been done, which this one looks really nice. These G-Classes, this rear metal plate and the tow hitch, once they get rusty, they don't look too pretty, but this still looks very good. And now with the coating on there, it looks even better. Now we reach the most exciting day of the whole project, and that's the day that this project is completed. The G63 is all done. It's looking literally like a new vehicle, and I'm excited now to show you the final product. So I want to thank you for watching this video all the way to this point, or maybe you just skipped to the final product which is this point right now, and that's okay too. But let's take a close look at the G-Class. The exterior looks amazing. We did trim from a previous installer. A little bit of PPF was kind of up on this edge of the turn signal, collecting some dirt. So we trimmed that and cleaned that up. Of course, as you saw previously, I believe you saw previously, we did the PPF on the whole windshield frame, including this lower section and it wrapping into this seam. So now really the whole front of the vehicle is PPF. The whole hood's wrapped, these upper fenders are wrapped. Of course, this was previously done before the vehicle was brought to us. And then we did the sections right here that go under the fender flares. We also added some sections here in addition to the previous PPF. And we even did the full bottom half of these rear quarter panels. So this whole area has PPF all the way, down this, and you can see how nice it transitions into here, into the door jamb. So now all 4 fender flares, they're not making contact with the vehicle paint. They're mounted to the PPF, making contact with the PPF, and that'll prevent that terrible rust that happens behind them from the factory. Back to the windshield frame, we also injected some fluid film around the whole perimeter of the windshield behind the seal. So now that will prevent the rust from happening that causes the water leaks, and really it's such a common thing on the G classes, unfortunately. And all you can do to prevent that, all it takes is really just a thorough fluid film application behind the seal. Then it protects the surface from the moisture and oxygen, of course, but mainly the moisture and water gets trapped behind the seal, and over time it rusts the inner frame structure. And like I said, a little bit of fluid film on a frame that's already in good condition, it'll really prevent that. This G550 right here, this was shipped to us from Texas, and one of the concerns was the bubbling windshield frame, and there was moisture and all sorts of rust in the frame. So our body shop did a full repair on this one, new windshield, new seal, and this one will be getting the same treatment. But now back to the G63 here. The wheels look amazing. The rim specialists we use, they always do literally perfect work. We've never seen like a wheel come back with an imperfection. It's really quite amazing. And to top it off, the new lug bolts, factory black lug bolts, and the Mercedes center caps, it's really something else. Let's take a peek, I guess, in the interior quickly. Me personally, I love the interior combo on this G63. It is such a nice place to be, and with this kind of quilted pattern there and the colors, it looks awesome in my opinion. I really like it. So we did an interior detail as this vehicle is going to be picked up later today. We also applied PPF in these areas in the door jamb. So that's why you see it's kind of like a matte finish compared to this gloss one. So we did this because we wanted to protect the refinished area from, the boots and the shoes getting in and out of the car. Because even on a vehicle with, factory paint and no rust in the door jambs, over time it gets scuffed. It starts missing paint even depending on how you're getting in and out of the vehicle. So the seam here and the seam there, between there it has the paint protection film to protect that. We also, I don't know if I showed it in this video, but the headliner was sagging behind the sunroof there where the camera's aimed. We did secure that back up. Of course, it has all of the PPF applied behind the windshield, the door, not windshield, sorry, the door window frames, like the rear of the door window frames. These pick up rock chips really easily on the G classes, and the forward edge of the roof as well. This whole section has PPF in front of the sunroof there. Of course, this is recapping some of what we've done, but now you can see it all come together. We've had the vehicle disassembled pretty thoroughly, and then as we protect the different areas, start piecing it back together, it all comes together, and you would literally think this G-Class could be brand new. So we are so excited with how this G63 came out. Of course, this has been a very in-depth project. It's taken a few months here of work to get this completed. But if you do have a G-Class and it's suffering from some of the unfortunately very common corrosion and rust issues that they have, give us a call, 978-263-9000, or send us an email to service@alphacars.com. Send us your mileage, your VIN, some pictures of your concern, and then we can start discussing the options with you there. This has been Ian reporting from our Boxborough showroom. Please leave a like on this video and subscribe so then you don't miss out on the latest content.